because men don't need to do their job, mainly speaking, in a more physical masculine way, they also seem to have abdicated the spiritual and the emotional. So they have stepped down, and someone needs to take over. I don't blame the women. Someone needs to take over. There's no vacuum. Nature abhors vacuum. Right. So because men have stepped down from the physical part of their work, generally speaking, now we have machines, we have, other things to do our work, which is great because it's progress. But what we don't know is that we still needed to be spiritual and emotional, strong leaders. And because we've completely abdicated, now the mothers, the wives, the girlfriend, the women need to take over. So it's almost like a setup. And including everything in today's world, including the emphasis on health and safety. Like everything's about safety. I want to feel safe. I want to have a safe space. There is almost now no room to experience life, the harsh reality of life, and allow them to shape you for better or for worse. I'm not saying it is a good thing. I'm just saying how it is in my eyes. Everything is padded. Everything is safe in the modern world. And this is the over-mothered world. There is no room for error. There is no room for men to experience the suffering that will forge them into better men in some ways, at least. So I don't know if that answers it. That's kind of a complex answer, but I'm trying to keep it as complex as I can without going too much into rabbit holes.
Right. So just a couple of thoughts come up for me. One, I found it very interesting, the way that you expressed the sort of masculine role in sort of building and the feminine role in sort of inhabiting. As you were talking, I was thinking, well, yeah, for me, masculine energy is like right angles and straight lines. Feminine energy is circles and curves.
Yes.
That just came up for me while you were speaking. In terms of over-mothering, I was talking to a friend last week, and she was talking about her grandson. And she was saying that, and this is true, I want to talk a little bit more about this too in this respect, but he's 21 or 22. He still doesn't have a driver's license. He's still living at home. He doesn't seem to be able to get out into the world. He spent a semester at college away from home. It was a disaster. He just wasn't prepared. And I said, what do you think happened? And she said, well, his mother was just doing everything for him. She said, I remember that he was an Eagle Scout, and her mother, that's her daughter. She said, my daughter told me that she'd gone to his Eagle Scout event, and all the mothers were there doing all the projects for the boys. And so the boys get their badges, but they didn't do anything. And that seems like a good example of what you're talking about. And it leads into my next question, which is, what happens to a young man who is trying to move out into the world, or it's time for him to move out in the world, and he's been subject to the kind of over-mothering that you mentioned? How does it?
Yes. Yeah. And first, again, I always emphasize that because many men who are embittered by this can blame the women. And it's very easy to blame the women as if they have any choice. I mean, any good mother would want to fill the vacuum because the vacuum exists. So that's nothing to do with lashing out against women. It's more like, what happened? What went wrong? And a human being has many aspects, many inner, almost like fragments of the self. And unless they're all together and following the same direction, things will go badly. And that's the story of all of us. We're all broken, and we all need to take a journey of healing, or rather being put together.
Right.
And so, to the degree to which that boy that we talk about does not have a masculine input and has a feminine influence instead, to that degree, many of those aspects in him would not be able to flourish in masculinity. He may be well fed, in some cases physically overfed. There are some men, including myself, I used to be like that. Just look at their faces and it's just softness, just a lot of intake, food, because the feminine is to receive, including in the sexual act. When you see a man and a woman, the woman receives and the man gives. And so, as children, our job is just to receive. We need that unconditional love. We need mommy. But then as that masculinity begins to bud, is looking for that masculine source. And you say, well, I'm made for something more. It's not just receiving. It's not just milk. There is more. But when that more doesn't happen, when it doesn't come in the face of a father and other men, could be uncles, fathers, grandfathers, then there's this perpetual childhood. So even though you may grow outwardly, inside you'll be just a boy. And as soon as you meet hardship in the world, you will shrink back. You go back to mommy. And there are many people, including me, how I've been for most of my life, really. It's just externally I was looking like a man, but inside I knew I was a little boy. And I just needed comfort. All the time I needed comfort. I was eating so much. And this is a physical manifestation, one of them, of what happens. You can't become a man fully.
Yeah.